So from Tamil Nadu, I can say that a sitting MP from Tamil Nadu, his name is Thirumavalavan. What he said was, a yuddha between Rama and Ravana was the fight between Shaiva and Vaishnavism. Like Shaivism and Vaishnavism was the biggest war that happened between Rama and Ravana.
Pandavas and Kauravas in Mahabharata, they are cousins, right? So they are also of the same religion. But still, the fight has happened for dharma. Then what is dharma? In fact, your viewers should know that the place where we are sitting here, just 100 meters behind us, that's where Modi ji came today and he took the snan.
Yeah, same place.
Same place. Ram-Ravan Yuddha is an Aryan Dravidian.
Yeah.
Because Ravan apparently was a Dravidian and Ram was an Aryan. So Ravan was an un-Aryan and Ram was an Aryan.
In the teaser itself, this dialogue comes that Ravan kidnapped Sita, but he did not touch her for 10 months. But Sri Rama doubted Sita and he made her do Agni Pariksha. So what kind of god is Rama? So Ravana is so greater than Rama.
Okay, you have to give me time to answer
Definitely,
this question.
you take your time. Vanakkam viewers, today we are on the banks of Triveni Sangam. So we can see Gangaji, Yamunaji in the backdrop, and we have Ami Ganatharaji along with us. So we are going to quickly speak about like our culture, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and Ami Ganatharaji's forte, Ramayana and Mahabharata, because she has written 3 books, namely Ramayana Unraveled, Mahabharata Unraveled 1 and 2. Right. So let's begin with Kumbh. How special is Kumbh for you?
First of all, Nandri for having me here. Nee eppadi irukke?
Actually, this was not scripted.
This was not scripted.
Yeah, not scripted.
And this is the only, unfortunately, the only Tamil I know. I hope I can learn more. And the other thing I know is Poda.
Poda. Okay.
So yeah, very happy to be here with you today.
Okay.
So Kumbh is very special celebration, very special event for Hindus, for Indians in general. Kumbh happens once in 12 years and it happens in 4 places in Bharat. However, this Kumbh in Prayag is even more special because it's the Mahakumbh, which happens once in 144 years. Yeah. Now, as I said, Kumbh happens in 4 places. Which are those 4 places? Prayagraj, Ujjain, Nasik and Haridwar. And why does it happen once in 12 years? So in all these places, it happens once in 12 years. Which means there are 4 Purna Kumbhas that happen in 12 years, in different places. But why 12 years? There is a very good reason for it. The timing of the Kumbh depends on the position of Jupiter, Sun, Moon, by and large, okay. And the Jupiter takes 12 years to complete its revolution around the Sun. Which means in every sign, in every Rashi, the Jupiter comes once in 12 years.
Okay.
Now when the Jupiter comes in Rishabh or Taurus, that's when the Kumbh happens in Prayagraj. Now all Kumbhas are very important, but the one in Prayagraj is considered the most auspicious. The reason being Prayagraj is very important. Prayagraj, as the name suggests, it's Prayaga. Now Yaga, as a lot of us know, comes from Yagna. The Yagya that we do, right? Word. Now why Prayaga? Because it was a very special Yagna conducted by Brahmaji. Why? For the creation of the earth, for the creation of this nature. That is what we are told. And where did that yagna happen? Again, we are told in this place. So where this place that we are sitting here, this is where, as our legend tells us, the creation of the Prakriti happened. So that's why Prayag is even more special, and Prayag is called the Tirtha Raja, the king of all the Tirtha Kshetras. The other important part about Prayag is that we have Sangam in a lot of places. What is Sangam? Different streams of water or the rivers coming together. Here that we see, we are sitting right across the Sangam, the Triveni Sangam. Why Triveni? Because we believe that there are 3 rivers. Now here, this part is Yamuna, that side is Ganga, and they are meeting in the middle. And so this is Yamuna, that is Ganga. And what we call the Gupta Saraswati, which you can't see, but the Saraswati that is flowing underneath. So there are three rivers which are of immense significance to the Indic civilization. They come together here, and that also is Prayag, that coming together. So that is why Kumbh in Prayag becomes even more special.
Did you plan to visit Kumbh before this event?
Oh yes, in fact, I was in Kumbh all of last week.
Okay.
I was here, I took snan 3-4 times, I went around to the akhadas, to the different ashrams, attended different kathas that were happening, interacted with some of the sadhus here, so all that I did. In fact, this, I had already planned on that, and I had brought my mom as well. But then when Shefali ji messaged that, okay, we are doing this culture kumbh.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm just going back and coming back, but I'm like, okay, if Prayag has called, I am lucky
It's Saubhagya.
to come back again. It's my Saubhagya. So I came back literally in 2 days.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was here. And this is my third Kumbh. I came for the 2013 Purna Kumbh in Prayag and the 2019 Ardha Kumbh also in Prayag.
Okay, in terms of facilities, what differences are you seeing now?
Oh, so from 2013 to 2025.
Yeah, 12 years.
I mean, you see all around, right? Look at the kind of lighting. It's night time, and we are shooting in the open. You can imagine the kind of lighting we have here, right? Look at the cleanliness around. Like, there are crores and crores of people visiting, and the water is clean, the place is clean. Everybody, there are so many workers who are just working away to keep this place clean. The staying arrangements, I mean, you can vouch for it, right? Place where we are staying, and even other places. So lots of toilets around. You get free food everywhere, the bhandara that we call. So yeah, I think it's
I can't compare
fantastic.
because I didn't know how Kumbh
was
looked before this.
Yes.
So now it's clean.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, I think people have put in effort because this is one of the greatest celebrations, greatest melas of Hindus. But this time, given that both Modi ji and Yogi ji are so committed to dharma, right? And so committed to people who are believers, who believe in this phenomenon of Kumbh, that they have taken extra measures. In fact, your viewers should know that the place where we are sitting here, just 100 meters behind us, that's where Modi ji came today and he took the snan.
Yeah, same place.
Same place.
Actually, let's talk about the history of Bharat as mentioned by you on your book, like history, Mahabharata, Ramayana. So suppose, we are insisting the government to add Ramayana and Mahabharata to be included in our history books in the name of history.
Yes.
Suppose, let's say, government agrees to agrees and they are deciding to include Ramayana and Mahabharata. According to you, what kind of Ramayana and Mahabharata should be included? In what way? How? The
See,
broad idea.
I call it history because that's the word we have in English. Yeah. But the word we have for history, or at least Mahabharata, Ramayana, is itihasa. What is itihasa? Itihasa is that which has happened, purva vruttam katha yuktam, something that has happened in the past, for sure. And it is katha yuktam. It is narrated to us in a story format. But this itihas is not just a documentation of the past. It is not just about chronology that 1425 this happened, 1450 this happened. It is not just that. Itihas has a purpose. Itihas has a purpose of teaching us lessons of life from the life of our ancestors. So the definition goes, dharma artha kama mokshanam upadesham samanvitam. To give us the upadesh of dharma artha kama moksha, the purusharthas, the pursuits of life, the 4 pillars of Hindu Dharma, that we have itihas, which is the story of our ancestors, something that has happened, and for us to learn lessons from.
Okay.
So it is not just chronology, right? So even when we say that, okay, the government should add it into the history textbook, we have to be very clear about the purpose of it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be, oh, this happened, they fought, brothers fought, and finished. That is not what it is. The core of both Ramayana and Mahabharata is dharma. These are struggles for dharma, for establishing dharma. And what is dharma? That is something to be understood. It is not a religious warfare, right? How can it be a religious warfare? Ram and Ravan, in spite of what people say today, were of the same dharma, religion, so to say. In fact, in Valmiki Ramayana, Vibhishan talks about what a great Sanatani in that sense Ravan was, because he conducted so many sacrifices. He did so much charity, right? All the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. So he was also following the Vedic religion. Sri Ram was also following the Vedic religion. So it is not a religious warfare. Similarly, Pandavas and Kauravas in Mahabharata, they are cousins, right? So they are also of the same religion. But still the fight has happened for
For dharma.
Then what is dharma? That is the question. And dharma, as we understand, is way more profound. Religion is a part of it. So the definition given to us is dharayati iti dharma. That which upholds and sustains. Today we were having all these lectures and people said how important it is to preserve the prakriti, preserve nature, right? Climate. Why? Because if the climate is destroyed, we will get destroyed, right? We will not be sustained. So then what is dharma? Dharma is that fundamental principle of sustainability. How do you live your life so that the society sustains, the world sustains, the family sustains, the value system sustains, the civilization sustains, right? So both these stories are about sustenance of a society with the right kind of value systems. That is dharma.
So let's say students learn Ramayana Mahabharata through history books. You want them to learn dharma, like in specifically.
It cannot be devoid of dharma. You know the story, but the story is not for the heck of it, yeah? I mean,
That's the
even
purpose.
today, what happens is, I mean, people write so much fiction around Mahabharata Ramayana, right? People change heroes and villains in it. The villains are glorified as a subaltern, alternative voice and all that, right? I mean, that is a wrong way of looking at Itihas because this was not a racial warfare.
Sorry for interruption, because just because you mentioned that both Rama and Ravana belong to the same religion,
Yes.
and villains are being glorified. So from Tamil Nadu, I can say that a sitting MP from Tamil Nadu, his name is Thirumavalavan. What he said was, fight Yuddha between Rama and Ravana was the fight between Shaiva and Vaishnavism. Shaivism and Vaishnavism was the biggest war that happened between Rama and Ravana. How do you see this?
I'm going to tell you a shloka which is not from Valmiki Ramayana but a belief that we all have, a shraddha which we all have in Ram Raksha Stotram. The shloka goes, Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Varanane Sahasra Nama Tattulya Rama Nama Varanane. You know what is the story, the legend behind the shloka? So the shloka says, Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame. So basically the story goes that Shiva and Parvati are sitting and Parvati ji is busy doing her puja and she is chanting the Vishnu Sahasranam and all of that. Now Shivji is very hungry and he wants food, but Parvati ji is like, no, till I finish my sadhana, till I finish my chanting, I cannot give you food. And then Shivji is telling Parvati ji, Are Parvati, Are Rama, right? So, hey Rame, why are you chanting, taking so much time to chant all the names? One name is enough. Rama. This Rama Nam is enough. Sahasra Nama Tattulyam. Instead of taking the Sahasra name of Vishnu, this one name is enough, right? This is what Shivji is said to tell Parvati ji. What Shaivism, what Vaishnavism. Now that you've brought this topic up, I want to talk about one more myth which has been introduced, especially in the south, which also says that Ram-Ravan Yuddha is an Aryan Dravidian.
Yeah.
Because Ravan apparently was a Dravidian and Ram was an Aryan. So Ravan was an un-Aryan and Ram was an Aryan. Now it's so funny because in my book Ramayana Unraveled, I actually have done an analysis of how and where Arya-Unarya words are used.
Okay.
So,
in Moola Ramayana.
In Moola Ramayana, in Valmiki Ramayana. So, Dashrath, when he's angry with Kaikeyi, when Kaikeyi says that send Ram to forest and all that, right? Dashrath calls Kaikeyi, you are behaving like an Anarya. Okay, fine. Then, when later on, the fight is going on, and Angad and Kumbhakaran comes. So Kumbhakaran, everybody is very scared of Kumbhakaran. He's just trampling over the Vanar Sena and all that. So they're all running away. So Angad is Vanara, coming from Kishkinda. He is telling his people, Arey, don't behave like Anaryas. Which means he is considering himself an Arya. Correct. So Dashrath is considering himself Arya. Vanaras are considering themselves Aryas. Now see one more. When Vibhishan is trying to tell Ravan that give Sita Ma away, don't try to keep her, don't fight with Ram. You know what Ravan tells to Vibhishan? He says, you are an Anarya. Which means Ravan also considers himself an Arya. He is not considering himself an Arya, right? And all the women are seen to call their husbands Arya only.
Yeah.
Now, Arya and Anarya actually is not a racial word at all in Valmiki Ramayana. Arya means a noble man,
person.
gentle person,
noble.
yeah? And Anarya means somebody who is uncivilized, behaving like a bad person. That is how it is used. Even if it was racial, Ravan doesn't consider himself Anarya or Dravidian or anything like that. He considers himself Arya only according to Valmiki Ramayana. So even that myth is completely wrong.
I want to bring up another controversy from a famous Tamil movie. We have a famous actor called Vijay Sethupathi, and have you ever heard of him?
I have heard of him, yes.
In one of his movies, in the teaser itself, this dialogue comes that Ravan kidnapped Sita, but he did not touch her for 10 months. But Sri Rama doubted Sita and he made her do Agni Pariksha. So what kind of god is Rama? So Ravana is so greater than Rama.
Okay, you have to give me time to answer
Definitely,
this question.
you take your time.
So first of all, I mean, this is not just Vijay saying. Unfortunately, this kind of a thought is across Bharat, and unfortunately, a lot of girls fall for this. Yeah, and they think somehow Ravan was a feminist. Yeah, why? Because no means no.
No means
right?
no.
Sitaji said no, and he said, yeah, correct. You said no means no. It is absolutely stupid, and I'll tell you why. First of all, why does Ravan kidnap Sita Ma? People say because he loved his sister Shurpanakha so much, right? That is why he kidnapped her. Not correct. Let me tell you what happens, what Valmiki ji tells us. So in Valmiki Ramayana, when Shurpanakha goes, her nose and ears are cut. And this is after Sri Ram has killed 14,000 Rakshasas of Khar and Dushan and Khar and Dushan, right? So she goes to Ravan and she sees that Ravan doesn't even know that his people have been killed. He's happy having fun in his Lanka. So she goes and first she scolds him and then she says, look, see what has happened to me. So Ravan is like, Arey, what happened to you? And she says, now, okay, before this you have to know what she has told Sri Ram when she's trying to convince him to marry her, yeah? She's telling Sri Ram, Arey, this lady of yours, she's so ugly. She's not worth you at all. Look at me, I'm so beautiful. You come with me. We will have fun. Yeah, that is what she has said. Now, when she is going to Ravan, she's telling him, you know what? I saw this lady in the jungle. She is so beautiful that I have not seen any other lady, not a Devi, not a Yakshi, not an Apsara like her. She's that beautiful. Yeah. She's so beautiful that whoever she hugs, she does alingan of, that person will become like Indra. Yeah. I was going to get her for you. She's lying outright. She's saying, I was going to get her for you because she deserves a husband like you and you deserve a wife like her. If you really want her, and because I was trying to get her for you, Lakshman did this to me. Now, if you want her, you go and get her. Why is she lying? If Ravan loved her sister so much, he would have just told her the truth, no?
Yeah.
But he's not telling her the truth. Why? Because she knows that the truth is not going to help. But she knows what is the weakness of Ravan, and that is beautiful women. So she actually encourages him to kidnap Sita, not to take revenge of her, because she is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And because she knows Ravan wouldn't have done anything otherwise. So one is this. Second part. Why did he not touch Sita? Now let me tell you, Sita ji was not the first woman he kidnapped. There were so many women before Sita Ma that Ravan has kidnapped and he has actually raped. Okay, he has curse of so many women on him. But there is one curse which he is scared of. And how do we know that? Because Ravan himself says this in Yuddhakand. So when Hanuman ji has done the Lanka Dahan and all that, right? Finally he's shaken because he had never expected that somebody will actually come to Lanka. Yeah. Hanuman ji came, right? So now he's very scared and he has to discuss this with his ministers Now, what to do if some enemy comes? So at that time, Mahaparshva, who's his minister, tells him that, "Arey, who are you waiting for? Why are you waiting for Sita? For Sita's saying yes, right? You have fun with her. That is our nature, anyways. You have fun. Then even if Ram comes, so what?" So at that time, Ravan says, "Arey, there is a problem. There is a rahasya because of which I have not done this." And okay, he has not done it, but you should know the what he has told Sita Ma. When he's trying to tell her that marry me and Sita ji is not agreeing, he says, "I give you," first he says, "I give you 12 months time. If you don't climb, literally, Shayana Maroha, if you don't climb my bed in 12 months, I will chop you into pieces and have you for breakfast." Okay, he's given this dhamki again. Just when only 2 months are left, when Hanumanji is in Ashok Vatika, at that time he gives this dhamki again.
Okay.
Literally saying, "Climb my bed or I'll chop you into pieces." Okay. So when Mahaparshva asks, he says there is a rahasya, and the rahasya is that there is a lady called Punjik Sthala. He forced himself on Punjik Sthala. Okay. And Punjik Sthala actually went and complained to Brahmaji.
Okay.
So Brahmaji put a curse on him, saying that if again you force yourself on a lady, your head will break into pieces. That is what he's scared of. But there is another curse on him also. You know of whom? Of his daughter-in-law. His step-brother is Kuber.
Yeah.
Kuber's son is Nala Kuber. Nala Kuber's wife is Rambha. He doesn't even leave Rambha, and Rambha is telling him, "Arey, at least consider the relation we have." And she's supremely humiliated. And she goes and tells Nala Kuber, her husband, and both of them curse Ravan. But he's not even scared of that. Eventually, he's scared of the curse of Brahmaji, because the Vardhan he has, right? That is also from Brahmaji. So that is why he's not doing anything to Sita Ma. Not because no is no. No, not at all.
Okay.
So this
And
is
the Arya Dravida is busted.
is anyways busted.
No, the no means no is busted. The feminism is busted. Everything is busted. Actually, now there are people in Tamil Nadu. There are two kinds of people in Tamil Nadu. Like one in Astikas. Okay, one sector of Astikas are saying the dating of Ramayana is unnecessary. Why do you need to do dating of Ramayana when you can? The text is our belief. Rama is our belief. We believe in Rama. No need of dating. Another sector of people among Astikas are saying that we need to date. We need to do research on Ramayana for the next generation.
Correct.
So there are two sects, and what's your opinion on this?
See, I'll tell you what our tradition has been. Okay. Yes, we have always had Shraddha, we've always had belief, but we have never discouraged more study. We have never discouraged research, whatever be the field, right? Because if everything was about just believe and leave it, right, then we wouldn't have developed as a knowledge civilization. Today, when Modi ji or others talk about, oh, we have to become Vishwa Guru again, what are we saying? We have to become that light of knowledge again. That cannot happen without research, whatever be the topic, right? So I believe no kind of research should be discouraged. While I also believe that whatever the dating is, for me, Mahabharata and Ramayana will always be Itihas. Why? Because our rishis have only called two of our granthas Itihas.
Okay.
We have a great proper classification of the text starting from Shruti Smriti, right? Shruti is the Veda Upanishad. Smriti is everything else, which includes your darshanas, your Vedangas, your Dharma Shastras, your Itihas and your Puran. Now, clearly, when they have called only two texts Itihas, they know what they mean by Itihas. And I told you the definition of Itihas, right? Itihasa, so it was, this has happened in the past. So for while it is enough for me, while that itself is enough for me to believe this is Itihas, I still think if we continue to do research, dating and everything else, we'll know more about our past. And so why not?
But their main argument is, in the name of research, you are demeaning our acharyas, you are like distorting the history, you are saying Rama just lived 7,000 years back, how can we believe?
Well, I think again, if they don't want to believe, nobody's forcing them to believe, right? I think at the end of the day, when it happened, when it did not happen, can still be everybody's belief. Somebody may say it still is Treta Yuga. Now the thing is, the definition of Yuga itself is not clear. There is a Pauranic definition, there is a Surya Siddhant definition, and they all differ, right? So this difference has always been there.
Okay.
So how will you arrive at one thing anyway? So I think eventually it will go down to people who want to believe in a Yuga definition, or others who genuinely want to do more research and understand this in a more scientific way. I think I am not close to that at all while believing itihas is itihas.
But you urge youngsters or whoever it may be to pursue research on Ramayana Mahabharata.
Why not? My question will be that, because again there is so much to research in Mahabharata Ramayana, right from the mapping of Bharatvarsha, right? From mapping of Bharatvarsha to the kind of trees there were, to the kind of animals there were. There is so much rich details of that time to understand the structure or rather the terrain of Bharatvarsha. Also, if you compare Ramayana and Mahabharata, you see a proper development of Janapadas. What it was in Ramayana versus what it becomes in Mahabharata. Mahabharata, you have a lot more Janapadas, you have a lot more people. The kind of warfare has become so much more evolved in Mahabharata versus what it was in Ramayana, right? So you study our own evolution, you study how our ancestors moved from one age to another, right? So I am always open to research. I find it very fascinating.
Okay.
And honestly, I still don't think it is against the belief.
Okay.
Because if that was the case, let's take one simple example. Okay, and I'm not trying to demean anybody. But this fact that even beliefs evolve, even the Shraddha evolve has always been there. In our Vedas, we consider the nature as Bhagwan.
Yeah.
Indra, Varun, Vayu, Agni, they're all nature deities, right? Come to Puranic ages, we have Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh who come to the forefront. In Bhagavad Puran, we have a story of Govardhan Parvat, right? Where Indra is being worshipped, Krishna says, don't worship Indra, worship this Pratyaksha Bhagwan, this Govardhan, right? What is Krishna saying? It is important to evolve as per your time, need, space, technology, all of that, right? That is Sanatan. Only then it will always remain, it will remain relevant. Sanatan is not stagnant. Sanatan is Nitya Nutan.
Our acharyas did not want, didn't do these kind of research. But
I don't believe that. Let's take another example. A little different from what we are talking, but we have always responded to the needs of time and space,
Okay.
and always reorganized ourselves, opened ourselves up, and transformed and done different things and innovated as need be. For example, if you see the definition of sannyasis or vanprasthas and all of that in Dharma Shastras, it's very strict in a certain way. And we have never had a monastic order like a Sangha which Buddhists had.
Okay.
Okay. But today, we have the 4 or 5, considering Kanchi, the Shankaracharya Pithas.
Yeah.
Now, these Pithas are proper organized Pithas,
Yes.
which weren't there before
Yes.
in that form and shape. But Shankaracharya established them. Is it wrong?
No.
In some sense, isn't it innovation responding to the need and time, right? This has always happened. Today, so many of our acharyas are using laptops, are using mobile phones, are using technology to even communicate with the people. Is it wrong?
Okay.
Why should it be wrong? Our acharyas, according to me, have always evolved and given us new things. Else, even philosophically, we wouldn't have evolved. Why is it that we have Advaita, Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita, Bheda, Bheda, what not, right? We have Yoga, Sankhya, Nyaya, Vedanta, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, everything. Shastrartha has always happened. How did Shastrartha happen?
Okay.
If not without study, without research, right? So I don't believe our acharyas ever said, close your mind and just listen to me. I don't think they've ever said that. The one thing which I do want to say, and sometimes I do agree that, I also agree that the criticism is valid in the sense, sometimes people take up research with an intention to dismiss. Okay, or with the doubt that this is just not there, rather than to understand, right? Like people will say, oh, Ramayana is just false. It is just mythology, it has all these stories, and hence the approach itself is to dismiss rather than to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't help anybody. It is just a waste of effort, because then something that has lasted for so long, right? Even today fashions come and go. Like now in this internet age, fashions come and go in like 2 years, 3 years, new things happen. Technology is changing so rapidly. In that also, if there are epics which have survived for so long and appealed to people across ages, there must be something to it.
Okay.
Just dismissing those topics, saying that only I don't understand or I am not able to date it, hence it is all false, is also not the right approach.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe the research has to happen with the Shraddha rather than devoid of the Shraddha.
Okay.
But having Shraddha does not mean you should dismiss research itself. So I think both of them have to go together, and that has always happened. You see our ISRO scientists, right? They are launching big satellites and all that. But what do? They still go and bow to Bhagwan. Like,
Yeah.
hey Bhagwan,
They visit Tirupati Mandir.
Yeah, please ensure success. Because science also has an aspect of uncertainty. We have something called as probability even in mathematics,
Yeah.
right? There is no certainty. Nobody can claim today that only this is the way, right? So that probability is built in. That probability you call Bhagwan, you need a sense of Shraddha for that, right? So that has always been there.
Okay. Another narrative or allegation is that in the name of modernization, like urbanization, more modern gurus, corporate gurus have emerged, and they have not read the scriptures, they have
Yes.
not read Vedas, and they are delivering lectures about Sanatana Dharma like everywhere.
Corporate gurus, I don't want to take anybody's name. It is not just the corporate gurus. There are so many Insta heroes also today who talk about Mahabharata, Ramayana and related stories in, oh my god, such a clickbaity way. They'll talk about stories which are not even there. They'll come up with conclusions which they want to come up with pre-built inferences and create a story around it, right? I think that is absolutely dishonest. That is dishonest to the civilization, that is dishonest to dharma, that is dishonest to their own selves, and that is dishonest to even their viewers.
Okay.
Because people are putting trust in them, believing that they know. They're coming to them to learn something. Of course, whatever else they might say might be helping people. But then, don't use Mahabharata Ramayana. You can do it even without that. Why don't you do it without that? In fact, today on Twitter, you will see a lot of these, some quote, and they say, Krishna said this in Bhagavad Gita, or Mahatma Gandhi quote. And you'll be like, where did Krishna mention any of this? And the sad part is sometimes big influencers are
Yeah.
sharing all this, right?
In Tamil Nadu, what they do, the Dravidians do is, they will write something of some great men's quote and they will say, Periyar said this. Hey, when
I
did
mean, not fair to anybody,
Yeah.
right?
So likewise,
Yeah.
the non-existent things in Ramayana are being said by them.
Correct.
Ramayana, Valmiki.
So my only thing is, Baba, Ramayana and Mahabharata are for all of us. I'm not saying I have the only right to it, right? It is open, it is available freely to everybody. You want to talk about it, please talk. Thoda sa mehnat karo, na? Put some parishram, put some effort, learn. And when you actually put in that effort, you will get enriched more than anybody else. So I think I have nothing against the corporate gurus. It is so important. These lessons are not just to sit in the mandir and read, right? These lessons are for all of us to learn from, for our professional, personal, individual, all kinds of lives, relationship dynamics and everything. That is why they are so relevant.
Yeah.
But to give the right messages, learn the right messages, to learn the right messages, study, no?
Yeah.
Simple. Just do that effort and then it's fine.
Okay. So due to lack of time, we will end it here. So hope we can connect it online in future. That was a wonderful session. So if you have any questions regarding the itihasas, you can very much comment it here. I'll take up those questions and I'll ask Ami Ganataraji on our next podcast, whenever. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Nandri, thank you.
அஸ்வினி நட்சத்திரக்காரர்கள் ஒரு வீட்ல இருக்காங்கன்னா என்ன மாதிரி பொம்மைகள் வைக்கலாம்?
பொதுவாக அஸ்வினி நட்சத்திரம் சொல்லிட்டாலே
இந்த மாதிரி ஆன்மீகம் மற்றும் ஜோதிடம் சார்ந்த இன்னும் பல வீடியோக்கள் பார்க்கணுமா? மறக்காம திருவருள் டிவிக்கு சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்க. திருவருள் டிவியுடைய சேனல் லிங்க் இந்த வீடியோவுடைய டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன்ல இருக்கு.